Mm. Ah.
Readers, Rosemary?
I think everybody's here, and I just started the recording. So
All right.
kick us off,
Well,
Wanda.
welcome everyone. We have a full house today, which is awesome. First, I'd like to introduce a new member of OVMAE and our MBS degree, Ben Goff. Wave your hand, Ben.
Hi, everyone.
He just started with us this semester, and we're really happy to have him. Yeah, it's great. And thank you for joining us for this. I met Rosemary a couple years ago when I got to ASU as a professor, and she had been on a grant with the previous director. And I thought, wow, what a great program. We need to continue this. So we've been working with her ever since. And I'm just really pleased as punch that she's doing this for us a couple times this semester, as well as putting our issued journal together for the next edition. And so thank you, Rosemary, for doing that and collaborating with us on that. She also teaches a course called Beauty and Brutality that will soon be part of our military veteran studies degree. I'm hoping to make it like a mandatory class for it, and I'm trying to work on that. So I introduce you to our friend and poet laureate, Rosemary Dabrowski. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Wanda. What a nice intro. Yeah, I do teach a class on war poetry in the B session at ASU that I'm very proud of. Um, and excited to be offering Brutality and Beauty, the poetry of war and witness again this year. So, welcome everybody again to the 2025 virtual launch of Issued Stories of Service. For those of you who don't know, we're a literary journal for veterans and their families, sponsored by the Office of Veteran and Military Academic Engagement at ASU, which Wanda Wright, retired colonel, is the director of. I'm always thrilled and honored to host these events, but especially the virtual launch because it's really our only opportunity to commune with writers across the country. We do so much locally. We love our Arizona vets, we love our ASU vets, but this is our only opportunity to come together as a larger community. And so I'm really honored to be able to host some of our featured poets and prose writers and profile subjects from the 2025 issue here tonight in this Zoom room. So thank you all for coming and being a part of it and supporting veteran stories. Again, I'm Rosemary Dombrowski. I go by RD, and I'm the founding faculty editor of Issued and the proud daughter and sister of Marines. I am essentially heading up a small editorial team at ASU that is comprised of undergrads, graduate students, and some alumni, even a community member from time to time, who are dedicated to not only sharing the stories of veterans, but inspiring all veterans to use poetry and narrative as a means to agency and healing. That's really our mission in a nutshell. So thank you all for being here to support that as well. Very excited to introduce our first poet tonight. Morrow Dowdle is a well-published poet, the host of Weave and Spin, a poetry event in Hillsborough, North Carolina, featuring traditionally marginalized voices, and a volunteer advocate for incarcerated people in North Carolina. Morrow served in the U.S. Air Force during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan as a physician's assistant. Morrow, take it away.
Thank you so much, RD. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this again this year. It means so much to me that you're creating this space, for those of us who have been in military service. I'm going to read my poems from this issue, but I just like to say I'm going to read them out of order because something that I've been reflecting on recently, the first two poems I'm going to read were ones that I wrote actually when I was in the service. And I pulled them out to revise. And I'm really struck by, years now being out of the service, how angry I was at the time, how disillusioned I was. And really, not that, the things that distressed me during my service are invalid, but the ways that I brought my pre-military trauma to the table and how that affected, my experience in there. And a lot of people I knew came with pre-military trauma. I hope it's not triggering to say that this is the 10th anniversary of my best friend in the military suicide. And she was a couple months from retirement. So, I'm the first two definitely will show, my feelings of, my more conflicted feelings. And then the last one is a somber one as well, but really finds me moving into a more introspective place where I'm looking at things holistically. And I would like to say that my GI Bill is currently funding my MFA in creative writing. And that's a huge gift to me. And I'm not saying that, that somehow balances all the things out that people may have issue with. But, what I did in the military wasn't bad. It was really good. Despite a lot of really challenging things going on. The first poem is Air Show. While thunderbirds roar and storm the sky, out of sight of the flight line, I walk the clinic perimeter, watching a hawk hover above. Today, the gates of the base have been thrown open to the public, and families pour in, happy to have their taxes spent on gas for these aircraft, even as they rant about prices at the pumps, so long as the planes dabble a little with death, distracting them while their sons get seduced by recruiting booths. I'm only here today on call in case the worst happens. Icarus falling from the heavens, mechanized body atomized in a blast, a star burning out. I am a laughable failsafe, more symbolic than serious, one savior for the likely massacre, running toward fire with a stethoscope melting in my hand. The hawk is here simply at his own behest. No need to compete with his metal brethren, entertain the eyes of men, or honor their boundaries once they're put in place again. And though murder may be on his mind as he drifts around this pine stand, of all the killers here, he's the only one I trust with my life. He's the one I trust to take it only to survive. Sandbox. When someone finds out about a deployment, they say they're going to the sandbox, referring to one of several Middle East locations, sometimes also called a desert vacation. When I think of a sandbox, I remember bare knees, red and mottled with the imprint of hard grains, grit sneaking into socks and shoes, hands smelling faintly metallic, collective toys difficult to separate after long afternoons, shovels and pails, action figurines from after-school cartoons, the little girl who no one would play with for no apparent reason, the boy who threw sand in other kids' faces, our immunity to cold or heat, like the black ants milling every season, their endless massacre by our heedless feet. Sure, conflict and violence, even death, lived in the sandbox, but the boundaries were clear, laid down by the pale wooden planking and the moms sitting all around on benches. Our granddads had been to World War II and our dads to Nam. We never imagined then that we'd follow them to the trenches, dug deep by politicians looking to feed their egos and pockets by feeding us, without further thought, to mortars and rockets. So you can see like a place of a lot of pain and real sadness. And I think the sadness I only really understand now, how often that is what's really below the anger. This is the last one, more recent. When I left the military, they gave me a painted statue, foot tall, a faceless woman with hair gathered in a low bun, wearing a long sleeved, floor length white gown, a wingless angel, maybe. She clasps in her arms an American flag folded in a formal triangle. That was how I felt at times in that place, small and wooden, one person carrying an entire country. Thank you all. I'm grateful for your listening and your care again.
Thank you so much, Mauro. What a trifecta of poems. Thank you for reordering them in what you felt was the most appropriate fashion. It was wonderful hearing them like that. Love that last one, especially. Love them all. Thank you so much. Always an honor to have you. I hope Cheryl hasn't left because I
No, I'm
promised her
here.
that I would. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to introduce Cheryl Montel, who is the co-executive director of Milltree, an organization based in Joshua Tree, California, that supports veterans through their transition out of military life. She's just going to talk to us for a couple of minutes about what they do over in Joshua Tree through the Milltree organization. She was one of our profile subjects in the 2025 issue, and you can read that in print and on the web.
Thank you, Rosemary. Rosemary, it was really, is it Rosemary or Rosemary?
It's Marie. Thank you for
Marie,
asking.
Rosemary, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm just going to talk briefly, like Rosemary said. Well, the reason I got into this is because I read a book, maybe some of you have read it, called War in the Soul, Helping Heal Our Veterans of PTSD by Dr. Ed Tick. And it's too long of a story why I read that book. It was recommended because I had read some other books, and I was very moved, and I asked him to come to Joshua Tree and do a book reading. And basically he read from this book, and I recommend the book to everyone. It's really well written and easy to read. But he said, if you want to help your veterans, then form a community group. And I have learned over the years to just follow the thread. So I thought, okay, let's do it. So I formed a group, I put something out to a mailing list. I said, does anybody want to help veterans in our community? And a small group of us met. That was like 12 years ago. And
Cheryl, you're on mute.
this whole time I've been on mute.
No, just for a little
It was
bit.
just for a couple seconds. So sorry about that.
That's hysterical. People love to put me on mute. Anyway, I was saying our mission basically is to be like a bridge between the greater community and our veterans and our active military and their families. Our mission is to bring them together with creative endeavors, dialogue, programming, to help end veteran isolation. And we're adding another element, which is just brand new, mentorship in the arts. So let's say you have a sound studio. If you would take a veteran, we're trying for a grant to be able to do this, but as grants are sort of disappearing a little bit, it's a little tricky. But so we've been around and we've done everything from singer-songwriting workshops to Dr. Ed Tick came out and did a Soldier's Heart retreat, where a lot of dialogue with civilians occurred. And basically civilians were able to bear witness to what veterans have been through, and vice versa. Civilians were able to say, we don't know anything about what the military folk have been through. So, we start, what we seem to do in Milltree is concentrate on what we have in common and to share our stories one way or another. So singer-songwriting, we've done writing. We have an online writing workshop that goes on weekly, and I'll put it in the chat. We are going to do something coming up in December called The Art of War. I know there's another title, but it's not that, where you match veteran writings with civilian artwork. So we will jury this, so you can submit your writing, and, you know, and then we will choose, 10 pieces of art and put it together. So the art and the story will be side by side, and then we will have a spoken word element. Arizona's not that far away, right? Come on in, you know, so Rosemary does, so. Anyway, so that's one of our next projects. Plus, we're also doing a StoryCorps thing. So is Keith Dow, who's also in this book. We're partnering with, what's the name of their group? I'm having a
It's the Dead Reckoning
Reckoning.
Collective.
Dead Reckoning, yeah. So, these dialogues between like a civilian or another veteran will be put in the archives in Washington. It's part of StoryCorps. So we're excited about that too. But if you want to find out more about Miltree, because I want to hear as much as I can from you guys, just go to Miltree, that's mil-tree.org, and, you know, sign up for our newsletter. And sometimes we have online things and a lot of programming up here in the high desert in Joshua Tree. And I will also put, if I figure out how to do it, I'll put the flyer for, we're calling it Rites of Passage, Stories of Service. So that's something else we're trying to do. And this art show called The Art of War. Anyway, so we're always doing something to bring veterans and civilians and, you know, together, and to find our humanity together and help heal together. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, or we can move on.
I love that, Cheryl. And, you know, you kind of underplayed a lot of your artistic mission. I mean, the work that you do with veterans in terms of movement therapy, writing therapy, visual art therapy, it's kind of endless. I mean, really, your nonprofit seems to have pretty far reach into the arts, and you just offer such a variety of programming that it's impressive and dear to my heart, and it's not that far from Phoenix, everybody. It's actually a pretty exhilarating drive as well.
I would say also, if you go to miltree.org, go to the YouTube button, and you can see all the programming we've done. And I'm proud of everything, but we had a Creative Core grant through the state of California, and we did something called Tapestry of Transformation, where we started with a retreat with 4 culture bears, 2 Native American, 1 Guatemalan and a healer, and another mythologist veteran. And they led this retreat, and it was quite amazing, into 4 creative workshops: writing, movement, acting, and something else. And anyway, and then we
Drumming.
went into,
Drumming,
Oh,
percussion.
drumming. Oh, hi, Pat.
Who's
Oh,
drumming?
thanks. Pat Wallace has just joined us. He's our board president, and he would speak more eloquently than I would. And Pat actually created a Tapestry of Transformation, and we moved that into a play. We had somebody write the play, and it was very metaphorical, kind of like the Iliad, if you know, Homer's, but it was just beautiful. And you can see a short clip of the whole project on our YouTube station, along with other things that we've done. Pat, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, you did a great job, Cheryl. So, I mean, look, we're trying to tackle veteran isolation, pretty big goal. But if we can just get one iota there, I think that's saying a lot. So we have great response from the folks out here. So it gives us energy to keep going on.
Joshua, what was your question? You have to unmute.
Josh, your hand was up, so Cheryl was asking you if you had a question, but you
We
can write
can't
it in the
hear you.
chat room if you'd prefer. I'm gonna say he's maybe typing it in the chat room or technical
Okay.
difficulties. I just want to say thank you again, Cheryl and Patrick. Milltree is an amazing organization. Everybody can read their profile at issuedjournal.com, and you can go directly to Milltree and access their website and all their YouTube videos as well. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It was
Here's
wonderful
what
having you.
Josh is saying, let's
Yeah,
see.
it's Milltree. You got it.
Yeah.
MIL
No.
dash TREE.
Yeah, you have to do MIL-TREE.
Dash TREE. Yeah,
That,
so maybe everybody just go to
I just put it.
issuedjournal.com first, and then you'll get the correct spelling, and then you can just link
Gotcha.
up that way as well. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Amazing work. We're so proud of you. An
Thank
honor to have you. Jenny, I think you're here. Amazing. I'm so glad you could make it. Let me give Jenny a quick introduction, and then she will read her piece that is in the 2025 issue of Issued. Jenny has been with Arizona State University for over 27 years. You don't even look like you're old enough to have been there for 27 years. From a student worker to the director of enrollment services for every campus other than Tempe. And we have a lot of campuses. She is also an ASU mom and a military spouse to her husband, Jack, who served in the Navy, worked for the Pat Tillman Veterans Center at ASU, and served in the Army Reserves, including deployments to Afghanistan. Jenny, we're so happy that you could join us to read your piece.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me. I recognize what a privilege it is to be here. And Mauro, thank you for sharing your work. And I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. Thank you for trusting us with your story. And Cheryl, thank you for that background. I'm combating veteran isolation, one veteran at a time. I live with a veteran, and I'm very happy to make sure he's not isolated. And I see my husband is here tonight. So, all right. So my piece is titled "The Work of Tortoises," and it's a small mini essay that I'll share. Today, we moved our son's tortoise outside from a small glass enclosure that we had been keeping in his room. I hadn't realized how knotted Leo the tortoise's shell had become. He had grown without me not noticing, because he had been hiding away in shadows and little tortoise cubbies, the kind that you buy at PetSmart. My only glance as I tossed collard greens inside his habitat was to ensure proof of life. At first, when we took him out of his enclosure for relocation, he looked distorted to me, and I felt bad for him, my stomach nodding a bit. Then I realized he was just growing. He was doing what he's supposed to do, and he hadn't need me to be watchful over him. He went from a super small enclosure to a giant garden bed in our backyard, full of lush plants and extra dirt for burrowing and traversing. We had a camera on him to track his movements because he was my little guy and this was his first night out of the house. Silly, I know. When I checked in on him in the middle of the night, he had scooted over to the far side of the corner, even though there was so much space for him to walk around. I guess sometimes when you grow, you're not sure what to do with that new space. And in a lot of ways, that reminds me of how my husband came home from the war. His shell was harder, and I felt sorry for him because he looked distorted and he had grown, but he wasn't used to all that new space. My husband stayed in his corner for a long time, and I finally learned not to keep checking in on him, just like I was still checking in on Leo. You just have to let people stay in their corner as long as they need and remind them that you'll be there when they start to venture out again. So I guess growth happens without my vigilant attention. Here's what I'll say about tortoises. The work of tortoises is never done. They carry the weight of existence, each step a testament to resilience. Tortoises can't leave their shells, and we can't leave our stories. Our stories are both identity and armor. The work of tortoises, much like our own, unfolds in the quiet persistence of time, and it's never done. It unfolds slowly in our time, and it's okay to be slow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's one of my favorite analogies of all time that you've constructed in your little flash memoir there. It's just so beautiful, and I'm sure it's resonating far and wide. I love it when you get to read that and share it with new veterans. Thank you so much.
So much.
Our next reader is Lisa Carrington Furman, who is an award-winning author, poet, speaker, leadership consultant, and a Bronze Star decorated combat veteran of the U.S. Air Force. She is the author of Latina Warrior, and her work has appeared in Stories from the Front, Pain, Betrayal, and Resilience on the MST Battlefield. She's also the founder of the Office of Veteran and Military Affairs at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Let's all welcome Lisa.
Thank you so much. Can y'all hear me good? Okay, great. I got a little notice while someone was talking that said my headset was not connected. And I'm like, oh no, right? So thank you very much. I appreciate that kind introduction, RD. I started writing poetry in just 2021 because I was writing my first book about military sexual trauma. And I interviewed multiple people and told multiple stories. There's 14 stories in there, including my own, which I had never spoke up before about that. So I started writing poetry to deal with the trauma I was going through and trauma I was listening to by all the people I interviewed. It was my way to deal with what was going on. So my first few poems were really dark and were about combat, about PTSD, about sexual assault. But it frankly saved my life. And then I was able to put all these poems together, along with some ones about the joy in my life, to produce the book Latina Warrior. And Cheryl had mentioned earlier about how powerful it is to have a poem next to a piece of art. And that's exactly what I did in Latina Warrior. I partnered with another woman combat veteran, and she illustrated all 50 poems in the book. So I'm going to read to you 2 of the poems that were put in issue this year. And then I'm going to show you the art piece that was created to go with it, so you can get a sense of that, because I think that's pretty powerful, right? Okay, I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I did serve 30 years, right? Okay, so here we go. This is called Fractured, and it's about remembering my sexual assault. I see fragments of my sexual assault, bits and pieces that are fleeting, memories floating loosely around in my head. It's like trying to watch a movie, a really old, brittle Super 8mm one with so many splices and cuts. Simply impossible to watch from beginning to end. So many breaks, gaps, and broken seams. Cannot grasp the missing pieces. They slip through so easily, elusively obscure in my mind. What's left are fractured shards. I try hard to retain every twisted detail, but the blurred bits are never clear enough. I don't remember everything he did to me. It's scary not to know, not to recall each painful part. And it's even scarier that I might remember it all. To know each excruciating moment would break me. Being fractured keeps me whole. So I wrote that, as I told you, I recalled my sexual assault. And here is the art piece that goes with it. So you can see that it was a great way for me to kind of deal with the demons I carried. I never spoke up about my sexual assault, which was at initial training. So it was 40 years had passed before I finally spoke up. And it was because of writing that MST book, I finally decided it was important for me to do that. So this next poem, and I also wrote about combat, PTSD, and I openly admit that I have PTSD now. I never would have done that years ago. So it's important, again, that we as veterans talk about our experiences and share our stories. And that's kind of why I write, to help myself heal and help other people heal. This next poem is called Invisible Veteran. And I wrote this poem sitting outside a VA appointment at the VA hospital. And I was just so frustrated because every time I went to a VA appointment, they would ask me where my husband was. They looked at me like I was not the vet, and like I could never be the combat vet, right? So I just got tired of looking around the room and never seeing anybody that looked like me. And I'm talking gender and ethnicity. As a Latina, I didn't see anybody that looked like me. So I got very frustrated. So I wrote this poem. It's called Invisible Veteran. Do you see me? You look beyond me and speak as if I am not even here, but I am standing right in front of you. Do you see me? You acknowledge the male veteran next to me with your gratitude and respect, but you ignore my service and sacrifice. Do you see me? You assume I'm someone's wife, daughter, sister, mother, or grandmother, but I serve too. Do you see me? You revert to your default setting that only men are warriors, but I am a combat veteran who is also a woman. Do you see me? You downplay my contribution, unaware that women serve, but my sacrifice and valor were equal to or greater than some men. Do you see me? You force me to work at gaining your respect, but haven't I already earned that? Do you see me? You still fail to identify or recognize me. I wonder if it is deliberate or ignorance, but my invisibility as a woman vet speaks volumes. Are you listening? So, and here is the art that goes with that one. And my artist buddy actually painted herself because she felt invisible as well. And then you see it says, do you see me, right where the face goes, right? And this piece is like 3 feet by 4 feet. It is huge. It's very arresting, in your face on purpose, right? So I thank you. I encourage you to, if you want to hear more, to check out my book, Latina Warrior, which is the autobiography that has a lot of these poems, especially about combat, about PTSD, but also about making tamales. Hey, you know, it's my whole self that I brought to that book, my authentic self, which was the first time I've been able to do that. So I never could do that on active duty. Thank you, RD, and the whole team at ASU for being able to producing this book. It's important we capture our stories. I'm honored to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Lisa, it's an honor to have you. Everybody needs to grab a copy of Latina Warrior. If you have a direct link for us to purchase, feel free to put that in the chat room. What a visually stunning book as well. How cool that you partnered with another woman veteran who illustrated that for you. What a great collection. Love it. Love it. So wonderful having you and finally meeting you, Lisa. Thank you. What a powerful reading. I think Justin's here tonight. Justin, did you make it? Maybe not. He was another one of our profile subjects. He is one of the founders of Veterans in Need, which is a local organization that was technically founded by his son, who was a high school student at the time. They provide micro grants for veterans in need locally. Usually they are able to fund veterans within a couple of hours of a veteran putting in a request for something like rent money or a copay or gas money. So I'm sorry that Justin ended up not being able to join us tonight, but again, you can check out his profile in the current issue of Issued. Just wanted to give him that shout out because I know he wanted to be here. So our next reader is Josh Dull. Josh is an Air Force veteran and creative writing graduate from the University of Central Florida. He's an avid writer, surfer, and kava bar enthusiast whose work has appeared in many publications. Great to have you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So this is a flash fiction piece, and it focuses on a character that's actually in a couple longer works that I've written, a couple published, several not. Felt a little weird at first because it almost seems like not really my story to tell, but it just, I decided to write with courage nonetheless. And I like to just write about people that aren't me and it helps me kind of understand other people's experiences. So the main character here, her name's Jamie Meadows, and she is a lesbian serving in the Marine Corps around 2000. She joins in 2008, and I think this story takes place in 2009. So, which is roughly when I served and around the time of the Great Recession. So, and also when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in place too. So here goes. It's called The Last Free Place. I pulled my motorcycle to the side of the road. I hadn't passed another car in 12 miles, and the Southern California desert stretched out in every direction except for the apparent ghost town ahead, some town called Nyland. The land could have swallowed me up. I could disappear here, just live off of cactus, lizards, whatever the land would provide. I'd never have to return to Camp Pendleton. I wouldn't have to say "I, Staff Sergeant" to Sergeant Moore as he screamed in my face over random uniform violations because I rejected his drunken sexual advance one night. I wouldn't have to avoid the velvet mirage and the wish that Nicole would walk through the door and drag me onto the dance floor. 5 miles east of here was Slab City, the last free place in America, a place for people who chose to disappear from society and live off grid. I wondered if I could make it work. I'd never see Palm Bay again. I wasn't sure I wanted to anyway. Nicole and I were perfect. That's what I told the handful of people that wouldn't tell my chain of command I was in a homosexual relationship. Except we weren't. We talked, we danced, we told each other our deepest secrets. I told her things I'd only confided to my cousin Tucker. Then she told me about the guy she started talking to, who she swore was just a friend. We met at a party, and she spent 2 hours on the couch with her feet in his lap while he massaged them. But he's just a close friend. She's not into him like that. She swore. The last rising sun I saw was in Yuma. My head pulsed with dehydration and the remaining scent of bourbon stuck in my nostrils. It was in '96, and I spent 48 of those hours drinking with bikers until I couldn't stand up. The Egyptian scarab tattoo on my right shoulder reflected back at me in the bike's rearview mirror. I stared up at the blazing sky. "You still there, Kepri?" I asked the cloudless sky above. Was this the grand purpose that pushed me out of Palm Bay and landed me in the Southern California desert? Was I meant to stumble from one heartbreak to another? Would every woman that ever mattered to me just leave when it got inconvenient? Or would everyone I meet be bi, just not bi enough to be with me? Bi because they kissed a girl once. I was due back to base in the morning, standing within miles of Slab City in one direction and the Salton Sea in another. I needed to make a call. I could walk away from all this right now. I revved up my bike and hit the asphalt. Who was I kidding? The sun sank closer to distant mountains. 3 more hours back to Camp Pendleton. I could hit San Diego once more, find another gay bar. Maybe another night of magic might take me, and I could put her out of my mind. It'd be another night drive across the Duat. I would report in running on shallow sleep and Red Bull, but I preferred it that way. I rushed down the highway, my Harley's engine riveting through my hands and torso. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Josh. It was great to hear some context for that story and know that, you were just flexing your sort of creative muscles to try to represent a myriad of veterans who you'd known or served with. And, I think it's a brave way to go. It's also a rare way to go, but we really enjoyed your story. So thanks so much for submitting it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to finally meet you as well.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for being a part of our little family. I know that Salton Sea Yuma territory well as well. So I loved those references. I've been an Arizona girl for a long time, an Arizona girl who wished she lived in California. So always going back and forth. So fantastic. Love it.
Been wanting to go back out there for a while, so.
It is, a remote and desolate country. But honestly, the drive to 29 Palms was probably the most magical thing that I ever did. I took the back roads into 29 Palms last year, and that's when I met Cheryl. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, really magical. Really cool to see all of the veterans living off grid over there in the Mojave Desert as well.
Yeah, they're tougher than
Yeah,
me.
yeah, lots of Marines out there. I loved it. Um, Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Josh.
Absolutely, thank you.
Our next reader is Donna Lee, another one of our new poets, new writers this year in the 2025 issue. Sorry that I do not know how to pronounce your other last name. I believe it's Jalagutis, but you can kind of help me through that when you unmute yourself. I'll just say Donna Lee is a winner of the Prize Americana for Poetry, the Gavall Press Poetry Award, and the Eric Hoffer Book Award. Her poetry has appeared in numerous journals internationally. Donna, welcome.
I'm
So
Rosemary.
nice to have
Nice to
you.
meet you.
Nice to
Hello,
meet you as well.
everyone. Good evening or afternoon, depending upon where you are. I'm in New Jersey. My father was a veteran who fought in World War II. He was fought with the Marines, the Second Division. And I also had a number of uncles who served in the military in World War II. I'm going to be reading 5 poems. In the first, there is a mention of Nagasaki, the second city on which the atomic bomb was dropped. And there's a line that follows the title, which refers to the end of this very short poem. First Marines in. If we are made of stardust. Onto the charred rubble of land, as far as you could see. Heaven, earth, the bones of Nagasaki. We were there to claim a foothold. We were the living among death in a wasteland with only the stars for light. Potatoes. When your brother found himself on the front lines in France, an officer yelled out, "Is anyone a cook here?" And your brother threw up his hand and called back, "I am," even though he hadn't really cooked much. But he knew through his mother, watching her in the kitchen, peeling potatoes, plucking chicken feathers, slicing the carrots for stew. So he started peeling potato after potato, a bit surer, perhaps, in the result of knife and spud than rifle and mud. While his outfit picked up and moved out, your brother, back at camp, put together what could be found out of the foreign earth. Did his mother's words echo with each task? He cooked his way through the war, potato after potato. He ate. These soldiers would eat. Your brother had raised his hand, eager as a new soldier with a mission. As the soldiers returned, he leaned over pot after pot. He'd peeled and chopped. When the ship docked, he'd step off. Looking for father's boat. On the 70th anniversary of D-Day. The film was black and white. The ships were shades of gray, the men young and directed, the dawn at their feet. Number 29. There's 35, 36. There's 9 in the background. Dozens of gray ships move their iron bodies. Some send troops out to the beach, men who will never return. I've read the weather changed. Father's ship was never called to land but stayed at sea. Father was a gunner. He never mentioned it except once. He traveled to Europe, to France and Japan, as if part of a trip round the world. Walked in after the bombing of Nagasaki, flattened as far as one could see. I was awed, and not in the way teenagers now use the word awesome. I never knew throughout childhood of the combats he survived. I'd never heard the particulars. In the next poem, there's mention of the BAR, the Browning automatic rifle. After 50 years, a veteran decides to talk about the war, circa 1996. We were walking over dead bodies. One moment you'd be talking to a guy, and in the next, he was gone. "Take that BAR, the sergeant yelled. But you know the man with that gun's a target. And sure enough, the next guy who took that rifle was dead. We passed the sergeant, and he didn't say a word. He didn't say anything as we stepped over bodies and parts of bodies. I don't want to say more." And this is the last poem I'm going to read. meeting you at the restaurant. It was a summer evening. You walked in. It was like any other evening at first, but as you approached, something looked different. You sat down and seemed heavier, as if weighted, so weighted you appeared unsteady, and your voice wanted to be sure of itself. So you talked about the war for the first time in a way in which it surfaced in you, and I detected color in the whites of your eyes, as if something had changed, and the light in the room seemed to be sunlight, and the words dropped from your mouth like small grenades. I thought I would pop. I thought something sinister had descended and was coming in like a warplane. And when you walked to the car and we had to steady you along the walk to the door, I felt as though I had been hit and as though I were losing a part of myself when you set your body into the car and turned the key. It was night, but it was explosive. It, what it was that had lodged within you like a bullet. Thank you very much.
Donna, thank you so much for that beautiful reading. It's so nice to finally meet you and hear a little bit about your connection to service as well, because I think I was wondering about that, as were the other editors. I just wanted to let you know that First Marines In is probably one of my favorite poems we've ever published, and I actually read it at the in-person launch in
Yes.
Phoenix a few months ago. So
thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much. Thank you so much for entrusting us with your work. Really
you.
beautiful. Really beautiful. So nice to have you here with us tonight. And next is Brian O'Hare. Brian O'Hare is technically from LA, but he is currently Skyping in from Virginia, where he is at the Virginia Center for Creative Arts as a writing fellow. So we're thrilled that he could join us tonight. Brian O'Hare is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, former Marine Corps officer, and Gulf War veteran. He's also the winner of the Syracuse University Press 2021 Veterans Writing Award for his collection of short stories entitled Surrender. He's a two-time writing fellow at the Virginia Center for Creative Arts, and that's where he's zooming in from tonight. And typically, more or less, he's a film producer and writer living in LA and working on his debut novel, A Gathering of Vultures, which he will be reading an excerpt from tonight. Brian, take it away.
Thank you so much, RD. I can't tell you how much I loved Issued. I loved Rosemarie Dombrowski. Wow, it was so smart of me to send you an email a year ago and kind of changed my life. So thank you very much. I also love Cheryl Montel as well, and I love Miltree. She is the bee's knees. So I know she probably left, but she's terrific. I love Cheryl. So as RD just said, I'm going to read an excerpt from my book, A Gathering of Vultures, which I am currently on like the 25th draft here at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. It's essentially a very loose retelling of the Iliad, a very, very loose retelling of the Iliad with an Air Force remotely piloted aircraft pilot, a drone pilot, basically. So anyway, this is towards the end of the book. It'll be about a little bit out of context, but you know, whatever. It will still be, it'll still be interesting. So here we go. The GCS filled with bodies. Colonel Puffer, Captains Akintoye and Hussein, a general I didn't recognize, a female colonel, a briefcase, all business. The general's aide, I'd supposed. Someone from JAG, lawyers, lots of lawyers. This was going to be legal all the way. A couple of guys in golf shirts and khakis, Oakley sunglasses on backs of heads, who said nothing. Everybody wanted to be there when it happened. Rubberneckers, looky-loos, the morbidly curious. Chaplain Brown, a prayer even. What was it like watching a family die? Stick around. Sour coffee, stale bodies, smoked cigarettes. The GCS smelled of anticipation, as if waiting for Neil Armstrong to bounce onto the moon. His one small step speech, the world's biggest gangbang. Take your pick. Golf voices again on the radio. Handsets cued acknowledgement. Electronic chirps like tweets, like songbirds calling across the ether. Fresh meat? Kometz's dry erase marker scratched virus letters onto the whiteboard, a to-do list of tragedy. A throat cleared. Radio traffic became its own performance, a little-known subgenre of the oral storytelling tradition. In those separated by oceans, entire continents, billions of people, we were close. American technology is around a campfire. We smelled the smoke, felt the flames, the heat. No expense was spared. In whatever story was told, democracy, freedom, revenge, the hero was always the same. The villain, though sharing similarities with villains past, was dictated by our nightmares. And though heresy to admit, he's beloved, for without him, and it's always a him, there is no story, no hero without a villain. Just Cause, the lawyers might title it, a ritual poetry, almost Protestant in its restraint, yet with a Catholic twist, absolution before the sin, confession in reverse. And though always dispassionate, I heard passion in our words, blood between the lines. As the old man always said, it's the ones who spoke quietly or not at all who were the most dangerous. As if drawn to the warmth of her pregnant belly, that sun radiating brilliant life, the girl runs into her mother's arms, tiny head reared in delight, goats at their feet. Not for the first time, I feel the shame of the voyeur, the violation in witnessing uninvited such intimacy, the shame of the human body, its vulnerability. The men appeared again, shooing mother and daughter from their home. Intruders, all of us. Voices notch an octave, as if afraid of being left behind, missing out somehow, chatter hitting in 2- and 3-word bursts, excited yet always disciplined, a testament to their training in culture. These are the descendants of the island that invented time itself, a way to coordinate ships, control an empire. And we were the clever students, the prudent and deserving keepers of that legacy, the American taxpayer getting his money's worth. I listen as hidden storytellers, the JTAC, the SEAL team commander, the 3-letter agencies whispering in our ears, confirming this or directing that, discuss how the story will end, the many variations, yet always with the target returning to dust. As I listen, the screen erupts in light, sky smudged black in smoke, different from that of the campfire, tinged now with hazard, the chemical and catalytic agents tasting of science, making eyes tear and breathing impossible, the smell of death. The ancient cloud hangs in the air, cedars splintered, trunks black in flame. The living run to help, do what they can, if only to cry out, powerless before such power. And as I watch, I'm aware of only my heart, a ticking in my head, and the desire to flee. The vision repeats. I watch from an infinity of angles, zooming in on minute details, the resolution on the Reaper's camera, truly extraordinary, the robust suite of visual sensors, a bona fide miracle of American technology. We lived in marvelous times. I watch mother and daughter taking note of their hands they held to one another, as if afraid to let go. I'd always been fascinated by hands, their ability to express intelligence and emotion, things inexpressible, their undeniable grace. I may be odd, but I think hands are sexy. I zoomed to each face moments before the flash, and in their frozen delight, their every word, I discovered not only goodbye, but the infinite variations of I love you. The screen blows out, our love of death masquerading as love itself. And again, the girl, the goats, the mother. The armed men disappear into the dark of the house. Golf voices are rigid now with hunting dog tension. a very real lust ticking inside. The decision made. Hail Mary, 31, you're cleared hot. Hail Mary, 31 has rifle, 30 seconds. But the missiles, both of them, remained attached. Hail Mary, 31, you're cleared hot. The voice betrays irritation, but seals are always irritated. I continue my orbit, continue watching the life below, the lives being lived. Fire Hail Mary, no mere irritation now. Babylon 26, our seal, would employ one of the many submission techniques he'd master if he could. A Muay Thai shin kick prodding me into action. A visit from the quote, motivation police, as one seal put it after a night of drinking. A sense of urgency imparted. And yet, there is no Muay Thai kick. Babylon 26 is 7,000 very real miles away. But behind me, I heard movement, a shift of feet and energy, a sea change. There's a pause before what happens next, a space occupied by what I'll call disbelief, followed almost immediately by fear that what's happened to me could happen to them, that is contagious, like a virus. To banish that fear, Colonel Puffer steps forward, as if I'd simply forgotten, and says, "Rifle, Grace," a hint of embarrassment in his voice, an apology almost. After all, there is a general officer present, someone he aspires to be, someone who will relieve him on the spot if he doesn't function, carry out the mission, and the unsmiling men in golf shirts and Oakleys. When I don't rifle, Puffer shifts into fear, also known as "this is really happening," grabbing for the joystick to fire the missiles himself and to accomplish the mission, the execution of these very bad men, the job we're trained to do, are paid to do, one that we are strangely in agreement on. Bad men die bad. It's true. Yet, I refuse to give up control. It's my aircraft. I make the decisions. As the GCS erupts into noise and movement, I fixate on the mother in her pregnant belly, that sun radiating brilliant life. The duality, she's the duality, I try to explain to them. The general, the men in the golf shirts and Oakleys, even Puffer, though he's merely a functional character and still functioning as advertised. God, she's God! But they don't listen, insisting on struggling with me as if I'm deaf. Puffer calls to Akintoye and Hussein, their own disbelief paralyzing them, fear making their coffee go cold, for help wresting the joystick from my hands. I hug the stick, yelling for them to look, absorbing their fists, protecting it, my eyes locked on mother and daughter. Kometz chatters into his mic, eyes flares, as if chained to his post, reminding me of something my father said about the North Vietnamese SAM sites as he roared overhead. Said he could see them chained to their guns. It's odd that I remembered that, especially now, but it's a testament to my father's unique sense of truth, his ability to make lies come true. The video feed spins. I lose sight of mother and daughter. I'm pulled from my chair. Akintoye holds me in his powerful arms, his Division III All-American second team offensive lineman's bulk. But he's surprisingly gentle, tender even, as if a favorite uncle has had a seizure, an episode of some sort. He's unsure what to do, afraid he'll hurt me. And while Puffer fights to recover the aircraft, his career, Kometz is absorbed in my betrayal, as if I'd impressed, or at the very least entertained him, a story being retold even now in his mind over happy hour Jack and Cokes. But Akintoye is on top of me now, his full weight, maybe 230, 240, even though he's been trying to lose weight, skipping lunch, jogging with Hussein instead. But still, he's a big guy, and he's pleading, it's okay, please, sir. One swat from his paw and I'm done. Doesn't he know that? I'm moved by his purity, I'll call it, that he still believes. And while Akintoye writes the world as if such a thing is still possible, I see Aguilar, the full force of her eyes on me, gold and shining. She places a hand on my brow and I rest. Pilotless, the Reaper dizzies into the hills. The feed registers treetops, then ground, then darkness. The vaguely familiar shapes of trunks, boulders, sunlight, a final glimpse before tumbling down an endless hole, and then black. The girl, her unborn sibling, their mother, they hear nothing. Distant thunder, maybe. Thank you.
Brian, we love that excerpt, and we certainly hope that you are the first author who is going to write a novel, has already written a novel, a combat novel from the perspective of a drone pilot. So let us know as soon as it gets picked up.
Soon, hopefully. So
We're so
thank you very
happy
much.
to have been able to publish an excerpt, a nice little preview of that for you. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing it again tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. Our last reader tonight is Megan Merchant. She is a writing editor and mentor who holds an MFA in International Creative Writing from UNLV. She's a visual artist and the author of 3 full-length poetry collections, 4 chapbooks, and a children's book. Her book, Before the Fevered Snow, was named a New York Times New and Noteworthy, and her most recent collection, Hortensia in Winter, was the recipient of the New American Poetry Prize in 2024. She will obviously explain this to you, but her grandfather, Carroll Milton Merchant, served in the Army during World War II, and her poems are actually based on the letters that he wrote home during that time. Megan?
Thank you.
So excited for you to share these. Do you want me to show the letters while you're talking before you get started?
Yes,
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay. I would love to.
I'm so thrilled that you gave these a home. It means the world to me.
Thank you so much for sharing them. I mean, they're really staggering productions, and I think I've described them a few times as cut-ups. So if you want to talk a little bit about what that is while I pull them up, that would be fantastic.
So my grandfather served in World War II from March 31st, 1944 into November 3rd, 1945, at which time he wrote hundreds of letters home to his darling, his wife. And I was gifted these letters about 6 years ago, and they were written on wax paper, in pencil, in cursive, and a disorganized mess. There was no rhyme or reason to the timing on them, and some were typed on a broken typewriter, which made it really fun. So my father and I spent 4 years together transcribing these letters, organizing them, going through playing really fun games like I'm looking for a 4-letter word that starts with an S and is a verb to try to figure out what was happening to them. Thankfully, my father was an expert by the time we finished at reading his handwriting, so it got a little bit easier. But I was so close to these letters when we had finished, and we have binders full of them. And I was so close to his story and his experience and the meticulous details in which he recorded that I decided to try and play and see what would happen if I created poems from these. And it was a lot easier to do than I thought because I was so close to them and my editor brain was on fire piecemealing these together. So I'm really honored that his voice is still present here with us this evening. My father and my son are here too. This is such a family affair. And I'm excited to share these. So thank you again for giving them a home, especially with their original letters, their photocopies of them. So I appreciate it. All right. Disembarked at Firth of Forth about twilight. We slept on triple-decked canvas bunks that were set up everywhere, even in halls and in swimming pools. I talked to a sailor on deck that morning, and he said in peacetime we wouldn't be making the trip in such weather. One of the worst Atlantic storms in a decade, waves 80 feet high. Because of our speed, we are traveling the sea lane alone, but stalked by German U-boats. After this, I think we'll postpone any overseas travel until we can fly. For my part, I'd be satisfied to stay home for the rest of my life. So many of the poems that are in here that were chosen are beautiful love poems, and why I think I was so drawn to them. I was told to find a place to sleep in the building over the mess hall. Bedrolls covered the floors, except one corner where the wall had been blown out. I got a dresser drawer to cover the hole and unrolled my infantry sack. It was already dark. I got to see my first V-bomb streak across the sky, an eerie sight, a man-made shooting star. A battery of big guns fired incessantly through the night. While on guard in the middle of the night, and it's been pitch black the last few, I've been passing the time by thinking of everything under the sun. I'm either going slightly nuts or becoming something of a philosopher. At the time, I decide to put it all down on paper the next morning and send it to you. But in the bright light of the next day, some of it seems a little out of this world, and I change my mind. All this by way of preparing you for whatever I might straighten out and put down on paper. At the risk of letting some of my unorthodox thinking change your feelings for me, I'll probably let you have it. Not that I'm worried about anything in or out of this world coming between us. I'm yours for life. And I'll share this last one here, which makes my dad blush, the title does. It's his favorite. I'm glad you told me that being forced to go without sex makes the mind sluggish, for it offers some excuse for many of my days when I don't think. It's only evening, 8 o'clock, but it's getting dark. A storm is brewing, big black clouds closing in over us, rolling down over the mountains. The wind blowing hard, doors banging. Just heard a glass break, an eerie primitive setting for a complete, uncensored expression of my love for you. Each day, that itself is growing towards the primitive, or retreating into it. That's as far as I got. I wrote it longhand and have carried it around in my pocket since. I know I had in mind writing it to please you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Megan. I absolutely love those poems, but being able to publish them side by side with the letters that you sort of redacted the poems out of is just phenomenal. And your dad will be pleased to know that the editors referred to that last poem as the sex poem as well. We did. That's how we listed it on our score sheet, just so everybody knows, the sex poem. Which actually has no sex in it at all, which I think just makes it that much more amazing. So if anybody would like to view those letters and poems side by side again, I put the link in the chat room. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, all of the amazing poets and prose writers and nonprofit directors who joined us tonight. Those of you who read, those of you who didn't read. I know there's lots of veterans in this room. We're so happy to just play a small part in celebrating your service, your stories, your voices, your agency, your lives, your recoveries, your survival, all of those things. Thank you so much for being a part of Issued Stories of Service. It's an honor to serve you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Rosemary. Thank you for putting that all together. And thanks everybody for attending. And we'll see you at the next launch. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us. Wonderful hearing you all read.